It's 4:57 a.m. Not 5:00, not early morning. 4:57. Because apparently, that's when billionaires wake up. I used to laugh at stuff like this. Morning routines, mind optimization, peak performance. It all sounded like productivity influencers trying to sell another checklist. But 5 days ago, I decided to stop laughing and actually try it. I followed a billionaire brain routine. Exactly, no shortcuts, no excuses. And what happened by day 5, I didn't expect. But before we get into it, if you're into real experiments like this, not just theory, hit like and subscribe. Because I'm putting myself through things most people won't. Now let's start with day 1. The alarm hit at 4:57 a.m. and I won't lie, I hated everything. My body felt heavy, my brain felt foggy. Every instinct was telling me to go back to sleep. And honestly, this is where most people quit, not because it's hard, but because it feels pointless. But I dragged myself out of bed anyway. The first rule of the routine: no phone. No notifications, no scrolling, nothing. Just silence. That alone felt uncomfortable. We're so used to noise the second we wake up. Messages, emails, TikTok, news, but sitting there in complete silence, it felt like something was missing. Then came the next step, cold exposure. And yeah, I stood there staring at the shower for a solid minute before turning it on. When that cold water hit, it wasn't refreshing, it was brutal. It shocks your system, your breathing goes out of control, your mind screams, "Why are you doing this?" But that's the point. It forces you to override your comfort. After that, I moved straight into what they call deep work priming. No distractions, no multitasking, just one task for 90 minutes. I chose something I'd been avoiding for weeks, something important but not urgent, the kind of work that actually moves your life forward but never feels urgent enough to start. And something strange happened. At first, my brain resisted. It kept searching for distractions, checking imaginary notifications, thinking about random things. But after about 20 minutes, it locked in. No noise, no interruptions, just focus. And for the first time in a while, I felt in control of my attention. Day 1 ended with mixed feelings, physically exhausted, mentally kind of sharp, but nothing life-changing. Day 2, though, that's when things started shifting. Waking up was still hard. Let's not pretend this suddenly became easy. It didn't, but there was less resistance. It's like my brain remembered. We survived this yesterday. Cold shower, still painful, but faster, less hesitation. Then came the deep work again. Same setup, same rules, but this time I went deeper. I wasn't just working, I was thinking clearer, solving problems faster. Ideas were coming without force. And here's where it gets interesting. The routine also included something called mental input control. Basically, you become extremely selective about what you consume. No random YouTube videos, no mindless scrolling, no junk content, only high-quality input, books, learning, or nothing. At first, it felt restrictive. By the end of day 2, it felt powerful because I started noticing how much garbage I usually feed my brain without even realizing it. Day 3 hit differently, not physically, mentally. I woke up before the alarm. That had never happened before. And for a second, I just lay there confused, like, why am I awake? But I got up anyway, same routine, same structure, but something had changed. The silence didn't feel uncomfortable anymore. It felt calm. The cold shower didn't feel like punishment. It felt like a switch. And the deep work, that became the best part of my day. Not because it was easy, but because it felt meaningful. And then something unexpected happened later that day. I tried to scroll social media just out of habit. And within seconds, I felt off, like my brain was rejecting it. The same content that used to entertain me suddenly felt empty and pointless. That's when I realized this routine wasn't just changing my schedule, it was changing my standards. Day 4 is where things got intense, because this is the day most routines break. The motivation fades, the novelty is gone, and reality kicks in. And yeah, I felt it. I didn't want to wake up, I didn't want the cold shower, I didn't want the discipline. This is where people say, maybe this just isn't for me. But I pushed through anyway. And during that 90-minute deep work session, something clicked. Not just focus, clarity, the kind where you suddenly see your life from a higher level, what you've been wasting time on, what actually matters, what needs to change. It wasn't comfortable, but it was real. And that's when I started asking myself a question I hadn't considered before. If this is what 5 days can do, what would happen if I kept going? Because day 5, that's where everything changed. Day 5 didn't feel like the others. It wasn't harder, it wasn't easier. It was different. The alarm didn't feel like an interruption anymore. It felt like a trigger, like my body already knew what was about to happen. 4:57 a.m. I got up immediately. No negotiation, no delay. And that's when I realized something subtle but powerful. The battle wasn't physical anymore. It was already won. The silence in the morning, it didn't feel empty. It felt like space to think. Without noise, without pressure, without the world pulling at my attention. For the first time in a long time, my thoughts felt like my own. Then came the cold shower, still cold, still uncomfortable. But now it felt intentional. Like I wasn't just reacting to discomfort, I was choosing it. And that changes everything. Because when you start your day doing something hard on purpose, everything else feels easier by comparison. But the real shift happened during deep work. That 90-minute session on day 5, it didn't feel like effort. It felt like flow. No distractions, no internal resistance, no urge to check my phone, just pure focus. And I got more done in that one session than I usually would in an entire day. Not because I worked faster, but because I worked without friction. That's when it hit me. This routine isn't about waking up early. It's not about cold showers. It's not even about discipline. It's about control. Control over your attention, control over your habits, control over what you consume and what you create. Most people think billionaires have some secret strategy or hidden knowledge. But after 5 days, I realized something uncomfortable. The secret isn't complicated, it's consistency. Doing the same simple things every single day, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Because that's where the real change happens, not in motivation, in identity. By day 5, I didn't feel like someone trying to be productive. I felt like someone who is productive. And that shift, it's hard to explain, but you feel it in how you think, in how you act, in what you tolerate. Now here's the truth. Did this routine magically change my life in 5 days? No. But it did something more important. It showed me what's possible. It showed me how much time I've been wasting, how distracted I've been, how much potential was sitting there unused. And more importantly, it proved that change doesn't need months or years to begin. It can start in a single morning. At 4:57 a.m., so the real question is whether this routine works. It's whether you're willing to try it when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, and honestly, a little painful. Because that's the price, and most people won't pay it. But if you do, you might not just change your routine. You might change who you are. If you made it this far, hit like and subscribe. I've got more real experiments coming, and trust me, they only get crazier from here.